My name is Todd Matthews from the Bailey Glasser Law Firm. I am here with Jerome Block and Jacob Jordan from the Levy-Konigsberg firm and Rachel Bassett from the DiCello Levitt firm. We are here today to announce two additional lawsuits that were filed on Friday with the Illinois Court of Claims as it relates to the sexual abuse that has occurred at the Illinois Youth Centers owned by the state of Illinois over the past few decades. This brings a total of 200 individuals that are on file, adding to the ones that were filed last month as well. This spans 8 different facilities in the state of Illinois, all owned by the state of Illinois. This is abuse that occurred at the hands of those who were hired to protect and educate the residents of these facilities, and instead they created a horrific environment and performed unspeakable acts on these survivors. Of important note, we see here in the lower corner of the slide, 21% of our current client base is female. Why is this important? 3 to 6% is the average in the state of Illinois for female residents compared to male residents. As you can see, 21% of our current client base is women. These predators were preying on our young women in these facilities at a higher rate than they were the young men, and this has got to stop. You're going to hear from 4 of our survivors today who are going to tell their stories, and Mr. Jerome Block from the Levy-Konigsberg firm is going to give a few additional opening remarks.
Good afternoon. I'm Jerome Block from the law firm of Levy-Konigsberg. Over 200 men and women who were sexually abused as children at Illinois Youth Centers have now come forward and filed their cases. It is time for the state of Illinois to accept responsibility for the systematic abuse of children at Illinois Youth Centers. The state claiming that it has a zero-tolerance policy is not accepting responsibility. The state claiming that this sexual abuse occurred only in prior administrations is not accepting responsibility. These acts of sexual violence have occurred up until recent years, and there is no evidence that any of the conditions that enabled this institutionalized sexual abuse have been fixed. The governor and the attorney general of this state should hear the voices of these survivors. They should be doing everything possible, not only to ensure that the perpetrators and the system are held accountable, but that children who are in Illinois Youth Centers today are safe. These men and women who have courageously stepped forward want sexual abuse in Illinois Youth Centers to end. They want this cycle of sexual abuse to end. Some of the men and women who have stepped forward courageously to file these cases are here. They want their voices heard. We want their voices heard. I welcome them now to say a few words.
My name is Michael, and I'm a lifelong Chicagoan. As an impressionable kid growing up in the projects with a single mother, I became a product of my environment and was sent to boot camp at IYC Murfreesboro, over 300 miles away from my friends and family. At Murfreesboro, a staff member preyed upon me, sexually abused me. I tried to tell other adults around me, but nobody listened. It fell on deaf ears, you know. That experience messed me up, you know? It messed me up to the point to where I'm going through a lot, even now to this day. It gave me the message that no one cared about me, that I was less than human. I am a part of this lawsuit because I want to bring humanity to the juvenile justice system. The culture of secrecy that has allowed sexual abuse to occur must end. For the sake of my own kids that I have, and for the sake of all the kids who went through what I did, we hope to break this cycle of abuse once and for all.
How you doing? I'm DT. I was born and raised in Chicago with a family troubled by addiction that, combined with the culture I grew up in, led to poor decisions on my part. I thought I was doing what I needed to do for my survival in the streets, and the juvenile system did not provide a better environment for me. When I was a young teen, 5 different adults at LYC Harrisburg and LYC Joliet abused me sexually and emotionally. Instead of helping me grow and change, my abusers led me down an even darker path. I am here today because someone needs to stand up for the kids in the system now. We as survivors want those in charge to take responsibility for the care and safety of these kids and make sure that what happened to us won't happen to them. Every child deserves to grow up with a better future than those that came before them, and we are here to fight for that future.
Good afternoon. My name is Jermaine Bell. I was housed at LYC St. Charles from 2005 to 2006. And while I was there, I was sexually abused by Officer Williams, AKA Cat Daddy. When I reported their bruise, they arranged for me to take psych medication instead of punishing Officer Williams. Eventually, in retaliation for continuously reporting the abuse by Officer Williams, they transferred me to maximum security, LYC Joliet. To this day, I still suffer from the abuse, and my personal relationship has suffered. And I know life will never be the same. This has to stop, please.
My name is Luke Matthews. I grew up on the west side of Chicago. I was a wild young teen, and I paid the price when I got sent to LYC Valley View. But instead of setting a good example for me at an adult Valley View, I got sexually abused. I spoke up to other staff members, but they said I was lying and nothing like that could ever happen. I went my whole life thinking that I was the only one, that I was all alone with my pain and suffering. But this lawsuit showed me that many of us were victimized and taken advantage of in the juvenile detention center. Our lives would never be the same, but we can still use our lives to bring up the change and hope for the future. I want to get justice for myself and other survivors of this broken justice system.
I want to thank all the survivors for having the courage to come up here and speak in front of the camera and with the media. The message should be loud and clear to the governor and to the attorney general. Don't envision these courageous men that stand before you at their current age. Envision them at 10, 12, 14 years old and hear their stories through their youth, screaming and pleading with you to please, please address this issue so that other young folks in the current system do not have to continue to go through and have these horrific stories unfold for their lives. Jerry and I will be happy to take some questions now if there are any.
I just have a question for Mr. Bell, if that's okay to ask. I just had a question about one piece of this litigation is about how when people complained, they were further punished, and he touched on that. I'm just wondering if he could explain for our viewers a little bit about that process that really is probably at the core of a very dark thing.
So like I went to the warden. First I went to the warden. And I wrote grievances, several grievances, and they just thought like I was just lying because, like you say, they thought it could never happen. So instead of telling them, I made a big issue about it now. Now I want to call my mom and I want to call my aunt. So now they put me on medication, calling them to out some. Oh, he's lying. We think he should get on medication because he's hallucinating. How am I hallucinating? I know what's going on with me. I know what's going on. So they put me on medication, and I'm continuously telling them like man, it's going on. I'm seeing it with my own eyes. So I wake up one day and they tell me, Mr. Bell, pack your bags. I'm like, pack my bags for what? You finna go to LYC Joliet. Now remind you, that's a maximum facility. I'm 14, 15. Nobody supposed to be in LYC Joliet the way that was at the time. 23-1 lockdown, you in SEG 60 days, 60 days in a seg hole? Like, as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, that's too much. Cause, huh?
You said 6 days in,
No, 60 days in confinement. What we call it seg. Like, that's a long time in segregation for a 14, 15-year-old.
Yeah, and, you know, the situation here is that we tell children that if something bad is happening, tell an adult. Right? I mean, that is what we all tell our children when they're in school or any kind of environment where they're in danger. If something bad is happening, let an adult know, and it will be okay. And here, the adults were the staff members, the very people that were supposed to keep our clients safe, were the ones that were committing the sexual abuse. And then when our clients did go to an adult and did say this is happening, they were further punished. So this is just outrageous misconduct by the state of Illinois, by the juvenile justice system that has persisted for decades, and it has to stop.
Mr. Block, while you're up there, just a couple of things, if it's okay, maybe that's a question, please do. You had mentioned, or one of your colleagues mentioned, that the governor and the AG have kind of sloughed this off, saying it's prior administrations. They have gone on the record, questioned about this time frame and said just that. Is that correct?
When we filed the first cases in early May, the governor said, in response to questioning, that this was prior administrations. We have cases up through recent years. We have one case from 2019, but we have no evidence, no reason to believe that the conditions that have enabled this sexual abuse for decades and decades have been fixed. All right? The state of Illinois has always claimed that it has a zero-tolerance policy, but saying you have a zero-tolerance policy does not keep children safe. All right? We know that the zero-tolerance policy were just words. They were hollow words, and that in reality, there was negligent conditions, okay, and the children were ignored, they weren't listened to, and it basically was just terrible, inadequate conditions that could allow this type of rampant, widespread sexual abuse. You cannot have sexual abuse that is this severe, this widespread, this rampant, without serious negligence and even worse.
One final question to Mr. Bell, if I can, just to button up what we were talking about. So the message to the youth in these facilities is shut your mouth.
No.
Back then.
Back then, that was the message.
Yeah. Back
Back then, the message to you when you were.
Yeah, it was.
Not say anything.
Don't say nothing. You don't say nothing. Just suffer the consequences. Take this medication. They made you up, like literally medication. Like medication, because I'm telling y'all I got sexually abused. Like really, medication? And then y'all sent me to a maximum security. I wrote grievances. My grievances got to be on file. I wrote several grievances, but instead I got medication, maximum security.
As these cases play out, and if they go through the entire litigation process, there will be a routine story of a systematic failure of the state of Illinois to address complaints when they were made. You will see time and time again these survivors were retaliated against and or bribed with food, cigarettes, drugs, over and over and over, all for the purpose of suppressing the abuse that was occurring at these facilities. Any other questions we can answer for you today? All right, we thank you for your time.